Здравствуйте, my fair weather friends, and welcome to another episode of Kachi Muchi's Game and Spooks. If you were born any time in the last century, chances are television has been a major part of your childhood. Perhaps you're mature enough to have been raised by the Australian Wiggles, or perhaps you're even old enough to have been entertained by the Hanna-Barbera classic Scooby-Doo. Considering the likelihood that many of us consumed large amounts of television as children, it is only natural that all of those loving memories eventually dissolve in favor of creating newer memories. And so, we are left with vague plots and scenes from some of our favorite shows, which by the power of nostalgic communities can those memories be regained. This creepypasta perfectly captures that phenomenon. The quest of anonymous users on a forum trying to recapture their old memories of a television show they all watched in their youth, centralized entirely in their own town. This creepypasta became so infamous and so alluring, it was even the basis of a television show that was also based off of creepypastas. And so, without any further ado, let us begin Candle Cove by Chris Straub. Net Nostalgia Forum. Television. Local. Skyshale 003. Subject. Candle Cove. Local kids show. Does anybody remember this kids show? It was called Candle Cove, and I must have been 6 or 7. I never found reference to it anywhere, so I think it was on a local station around 1971 or 1972. I lived in Ironton at the time. I don't remember which station. But I do remember that it was on at a weird time, like 4 p.m. Mike Painter, 65, Candle Cove Local Kids Show. It seems really familiar to me. I grew up outside of Ashland and I was 9 years old in 72. Candle Cove. Was it about pirates? I remember a pirate marionette at the mouth of a cave talking to a little girl. Skyshale 003. Yes, okay, I'm not crazy. I remember Pirate Percy. I was always kind of scared of him. He looked like he was built from parts of other dolls, real low budget. His head was an old porcelain baby doll. It looked like an antique that didn't belong on the body. I don't remember what station this was. I don't think it was WTSF though. Jaren, 2005. Sorry to resurrect this old thread, but I know exactly what show you mean, Skyshell. I think Candle Cove only ran for a couple of months in 71, not 72. I was 12 and I watched it a few times with my brother. It was on channel 58, whatever station that was. My mom would let me switch to it after the news. Let me see what I remember. It took place in Candle Cove, and it was about a little girl who imagined herself to be friends with pirates. The pirate ship was called the Laughingstock, and Pirate Percy wasn't a very good pirate because he got scared too easily. And there was calliope music playing constantly. Don't remember the little girl's name though. Janice or Jade or something. I think it was Janice. Skyshell 003. Thank you, Jaren. Memories flooded back when you mentioned the Laughingstock and Channel 58. I remember the bow of the ship was a wooden smiling face, with the lower jaw submerged. It looked like it was swallowing the sea, and it had that awful Ed Wynn voice and laugh. I especially remember how jarring it was when they switched from the wooden plastic model to the foam puppet version of the head that talked. Mike Painter, 65. I remember now too. Do you remember this part, Skyshell? You have to go inside. Skyshell 003. Mike, I got a chill reading that. Yes, I remember. That's what the ship always told Percy when there was a spooky place he had to go in, like a cave or a dark room where the treasure was, and the camera would push in on the Laughingstock's face with each pause. You have to go inside. With his 2 eyes askew and that flapping foam jaw, and the fishing line that opened and closed it, it just looked so cheap and awful. You guys remember the villain? He had a face that was just a handlebar mustache above really tall, narrow teeth. Kevin_Hart. I honestly thought the villain was Pirate Percy. I was about 5 when this show was on. Nightmare fuel. Jaren 2005. That wasn't the villain. The pirate with the mustache, that was the villain's sidekick, Horace Horrible. He had a monocle too, but it was on top of the mustache. I used to think that meant he only had one eye. But yeah, the villain was another marionette, the Skin Taker. I can't believe what they let us watch back then. Kevin_Hart. Jesus H. Christ, the Skin Taker. What kind of a kid show were we watching? I seriously could not look at the screen when the Skin Taker showed up. He just descended out of nowhere on his strings, just a dirty skeleton wearing that brown top hat and cape, and his glass eyes that were too big for his skull. Christ almighty. Skyshell003. Wasn't his top hat and cloak all sewn up crazily? Was that supposed to be children's skin? Mike Painter, 65. Yeah, I think so. Remember his mouth didn't open and close? His jaw just slid back and forth. I remember the little girl said, "Why does your mouth move like that?" And the Skin Taker didn't look at the girl but at the camera and said, "To grind your skin." Skyshell003. I'm so relieved that other people remember this terrible show. I used to have this awful memory, a bad dream I had where the opening jingle ended, the show just faded in from black, and all the characters were there, but the camera was just cutting up to each of their faces, and they were all just screaming, and the puppets and marionettes were flailing spastically, and all just screaming. The girl was just moaning and crying like she had been through hours of this. I woke up many times from that nightmare. I used to wet the bed when I had it. Kevin_Hart. I don't think that was a dream. I remember that was an episode. Skyshell003. No. That's not possible. There was no plot or anything. I mean literally just standing in place, crying and screaming for the whole show. Kevin_Hart. Maybe I'm manufacturing the memory because you said that, but I swear to God, I remember seeing what you described. They just screamed. Jaren 2005. Oh God, yes, the little girl Janice. I remember seeing her shake, and the Skin Taker screaming through his gnashing teeth, his jaw careening so wildly I thought it would come off of its wired hinges. I turned it off, and it was the last time I watched. I ran to tell my brother, and we didn't have the courage to turn it back on. Mike Painter, 65. I visited my mom today at the nursing home. I asked her about when I was a little boy in the early 70s, when I was 8 or 9, if she remembered a kid's show, Candle Cove. She said she was surprised I could remember that, and I asked why, and she said, "Because I used to think it was so strange that you said, 'I'm gonna watch Candle Cove now, Mom,' and then you would tune the TV to static and just watch dead air for 30 minutes. You had a big imagination with your little pirate show." The end. And this was the story of Candle Cove. Not just a lost episode, but a lost TV series. It's not a surprise that this creepypasta was chosen to become a TV show. After all, it literally involves a missing TV show. The build-up of this creepypasta was extraordinary, as what began as an innocent recollection of childhood memories morphed into the realization that their childhood may not be as innocent as it seemed. I especially enjoyed the open ending that the story ends with, as you don't know if the mother in the nursing home was telling the truth, or if she was simply losing her mind. Many people connect this story to other creepypastas like Polybius, or the various television hijack creepypastas, but considering this is an organic story featured in its own book, that likely isn't true. Regardless, I really enjoyed this short but sweet creepypasta, and while it won't dissuade my crave of nostalgia, I'll certainly look upon my childhood with more of an open mind, and for all I know, perhaps even you will too. Thank you for watching or listening to my narration of this legendary creepypasta. If you enjoyed the video, why not like or subscribe? Or better yet, why not leave a comment giving suggestions on what I should narrate next? This has been Kachimuchi, and that's about all I have to say about that. Farewell.